and welcome back to our 5th episode of ayematters, and we're joined tonight with Ben Lake, a Plaid Cymru MP. Tonight will probably all go horribly wrong, not because Ben's here, but because Parliament is about to start voting with 4 votes on the Strikes Minimum Services Bill, which we're all opposed to. So as soon as that happens, we will all have to run. But our team at the Yes Hub in Falkirk will take over, and hopefully everything will still tick along nicely, and we hope to join between the votes if we can get Wi-Fi signal from just outside the chamber to update people on what's happening. So without further ado, we'll hand over to Ben. Ben, we're really pleased that you joined us here tonight. Our first show, believe it or not, despite Johnny and I's good looks and good humour, our audience says, what's happening in Wales? So we said, we'll sort that out. Our Welsh peeling, and tonight we've got yourself. So you want to tell us a bit about yourself and what is happening in Wales?
So, thanks, Martin, and thank you for having me on to the show. There's a lot happening in Wales, is the short answer. It's quite an exciting time because Wales has historically, if we look at just the politics and some of the campaigns, it's been one of those places that are parts of the union, as it were, that has been relatively quiet. But in the last 2 or 3 years, we've really sort of seen a big change of that. And I'm sure we want to discuss a little bit about Yes Cymru, the sort of campaign that was inspired by actually the Yes campaign of 2014, and has continued to develop and grow quite strongly in the last few years to be one of the largest membership bodies in Wales. If you strip away the automatic membership of that the unions give to the Labour Party, it is the biggest political organisation in Wales. But just in terms of what's happening in Wales, I think we're in a very interesting kind of crossroads. There's been a lot of debate since 2014 about the future constitutional makeup of the United Kingdom.
We're getting some comments that our mics are distorting, so I've just adjusted the overall sound level. I don't know if one of our audience can tell us if that is better, worse, or no different. I'm just checking a private chat. No, none of our tech guys have made any comment.
I wonder how that is now.
We've not heard, but just carry on. Yeah, I'll just bounce that back up.
Because if you look at politics-wise, despite a bit of a good result in '99 for the first elections to what was the National Assembly for Wales back then, Plaid, we've had a bit of a middling sort of history since then. We haven't really challenged Labour in the way that we would like to have done elections, and despite a few good European elections, we haven't really competed at the Westminster level with Labour. And so if you just look at the sort of conventional political map, you'd think that maybe the campaign for Welsh independence is dead in the water. We only have 4 of the 40 MPs. We have 12 members out of 60 down in Cardiff. It's
well, we had our first referendum when we only had 6 MPs. So you're not that far away.
Good point.
Wales. I mean, that's pretty much what our father started. Yeah.
But it's interesting that I think in many ways we have been inspired by what's happening in Scotland. The debate that, yes, of course, you've managed to have in Scotland, but it has sort of filtered across then to other parts, and especially in Wales. And opinion polling has been consistent that support for Welsh independence has been growing. It's still a minority, but we've gone from a situation where we were scraping 5-6%, to now we're consistently over 30%, and that's not to be belittled, because now we also have in Yes Cymru, to its credit, a professional body, campaigning body with a few members of staff who are solely in existence to campaign for Welsh independence and winning over what we like to call the indie curious as the first step. Because we know from polling that half of those who vote with Labour in Wales are in favour of Welsh independence. So our challenge as a political party is to either convince those Labour voters that they're better off with us and cause ructions in not just Welsh politics but UK politics, or bring so much pressure that the Labour Party in Wales breaks off from the UK party. And if I'm perfectly honest with you, I think both of those possibilities are real.
So do I.
But it's something that's really kind of taken a hold in the last, since the Scottish referendum, and what's really changed in the last 2 years. At its height during lockdown, Yes Cymru membership, I think, surged to about 24,000. Now, bearing in mind 3.1 million, 3.2 million people in Wales, Plaid Cymru's membership has, fluctuated from 7,000 to 9,000. Overnight, Yes Cymru just shot up to 24,000, the largest political organisation in Wales.
Wow.
And there was a march just this Saturday in Swansea. They've had a march in Wrexham, Cardiff, as well as the places that you'd think you'd have independence marches like Caernarfon. But Wrexham, Swansea, Cardiff, Newport, these are cities in the anglicised parts of Wales. Not places where you expect Welsh independence to be on the agenda, let alone take over the city. So it's really exciting, and coupled with that, then we've got a complete resurgence in interest in the Welsh language. It's when I was in university, I studied a lot of the kind of protest campaigns of the 60s, and one of the most famous songs was Yma o Hyd by Dafydd Iwan. And when I was studying for my master's back in 2013-14, I never would have thought that we'd be sitting here just about 10 years later on, where not only would the Welsh football team rebrand to its Welsh name, Cymru, they would have on the World Cup Dafydd Iwan singing a song, you'd have the fans singing it back to them, but also Welsh boxers now, when they compete for the titles and their belts, they have Dafydd Iwan and Yma o Hyd as the song when they walk out to go for that belt. It is such a crazy state of affairs, because this is a song, a Welsh nationalist protest song that is just being adopted by everybody, and it's really, really quite special. I'm excited to see what comes next, really.
Yeah, well, I'm a big fan of history, and there's an iconic figure of Scottish nationalist history is a man called Fletcher of Saltoun, who opposed the Union back in the old pre-Union Parliament. And one of his comments was, if a man were permitted to write the ballads of a nation, he didn't care who wrote the laws. And for many years before we had devolution, things like that kept us going, was the cultural revolution that was preceded the political one, which is so we're all travelling down the same path, I think.
Ben, do you think that the cultural movement, the patriotic songs, has helped to swell the nationalist movement and people joining in it as it goes side by side?
I think it is, because I think it's fair to say that for most of the 20th century, Wales, you could have sort of split it up into three different types of Wales. And actually there is a sort of academic model that says you have Welsh Wales, which is the old industrial belts of South Wales and North East Wales, which typically vote Labour. Then you have British Wales, which is the sort of rural part of Eastern Wales and Pembrokeshire, which typically votes Conservative. And then you have the Fro Gymraeg, which is the Welsh-speaking Wales, which is the rest of it, and mainly the north and the west of Wales, which tends to vote Plaid Cymru. And interestingly, that sort of model holds true almost to this day intact. And for most of the 20th century, the Welsh language and the culture was seen as a bit of a divisive issue. I mean, the campaign for Welsh language schools was very, very bitter, even in the Welsh part of Wales, the Welsh-speaking part of Wales. I grew up, I was taught through the medium of Welsh, but only a few years before I started proper schooling, there were real bitter campaigns. Welsh Labour MPs were vehemently against having Welsh medium education, and it only just got through. Now, you wouldn't have even a Conservative member of Parliament oppose Welsh language school. It's no longer a political football as it was 15, 20 years ago even. And I think that's really important, because what it's done is, I think, given a particular identity and a way for people in Wales to express themselves in a unique way, that, because, we have to realise Wales is well, different to Scotland in many regards, but one of the big things is, that we share a border with England, yes, but a quarter of the population of Wales crosses that border every day to work. And vice versa. It's a lot, and so that, it's very, very easy, especially for that part of Wales, to become assimilated to England and feel very much English or British, if you like, in its politics. Whereas the culture has given something for us to hold on to, and to remain that unique, well, both in terms of culture, but also politically.
Yeah.
So I think it's been really, really important, and it's not always been the case. It's come back in a weird and wonderful way. I don't think, so David Iwan, I'm very fortunate to know David, and I think he'd be the first to admit that he would never have thought that 50 years on, more than that, since first performing, writing the song, that it would now probably be more popular than it ever has been. And it's one of those things, if you go out to a town in Wales on a Saturday night, and the youngsters are there, they've had a few drinks, and they're on the jukebox at the end of the night, a Mawhid comes on.
Comes out.
When I was growing up in the west of Wales, when you had your 18th birthday parties, because that's when we started drinking, of course, the last song of the night before the national anthem would be a Mawhid. Now, it's not just true of the west of Wales, it's true of all throughout Wales. Yeah. So you could be in Cardiff on a Saturday night and they're playing it.
Well, I can see the minister on his feet, so I suspect we're going to get soon. We've had a comment, more than a question, but I'll read it out anyway and I'll put it up. Chris Fisher has said, describing Wales without mentioning Celtic and human dispersion is strange. Any thoughts on that one? Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, Wales is a sort of a Celtic nation in the sort of modern sense of an understanding of Celtic. And I think it's true to say that there are links between Wales, Scotland, Cornwall, and parts of Ireland that people do really feel a strong affinity with, and they do motivate us more perhaps than we realise. There's and it's not just like some sort of aversion or hostility towards England. It's not that. It's just a shared sense of cultural heritage, and also I think a viewpoint on the world. We are small but proud nations, and have endured in different respects, the ravages of history. And I think that gives us then a sort of a shared understanding. We're not the conquerors of the world, we're not the sort of large dominant powers. And so we appreciate then the importance of smaller nations, collaboration, cultural exchanges in a way perhaps that larger nations of the world haven't had to, because quite frankly, they're the dominant players in the international stage. But I'm not sure, sorry if I addressed the question there properly, but...
Well, we're getting a few questions coming in, so we better take them fast before everything goes down the Swanee. Hashbury Stumble, I'll read out the two we've got, says, what are the worst effects of Brexit to Wales? And Charles Smith says, has Ben any concerns about second homers and incomers affecting the voting pattern? Two
good questions, yeah. So just on the first one, the Brexit, there are probably three main issues, and I'm not sure which is the worst impact for Wales. First is the loss of structural funds. Wales, I don't take pride in this, but it was when we were in one of the poorest regions of Europe, and we were falling behind actually even parts of Europe that were previously part of the communist bloc and Eastern Europe. And we lost a lot of funding because of that. Farming, that's a big issue for us. And the ports.
Yep, we are now going to have to run, so we will update you as soon as we can, and our team over at the Yes Hub will take over, and they've got a few things to play and display.
Hello. Well, as our MP friends go to vote, we have a few videos to show you just now. And the first of these videos is an interview with Kelly McCann, a local community activist and friend of the Yes movement in general, as friend of John McNally, our MP, family friend going back. And this first video is an interview we did earlier with Kelly about her work in the community in Denny. Well,
welcome
hello,
to
Ricky.
Calendar Studios in Falkirk, where I'm joined today with our local MP, John McNally, and one of his constituents, Kelly McCann, from the village of Denny, where Johnny himself hails from. Now, Johnny, I believe that you've got a rather special connection with Kelly. Were you at school with her grandfather?
Well, I know Kelly's very young looking, but it was actually her dad that I was at school
He'll love
with.
that one.
Either I'm very old looking or she's very young looking, so I think we'll take the second option in that one. Thanks very much for that introduction. Yeah, it was a pleasure of growing up with her dad's family in Denny. We all grew up together, big families. Great community spirit was developed between us all, Kenny.
Indeed. And did you become a barber there at a young age? Did you?
Yeah, I was working by the time I was 15.
Right. So did you cut Kelly's family's hair?
I had some great occasions, particularly with our Uncle Hughie. We were in part of a performing act in the crypt in Denny, where we did some local, you'd probably call it a review nowadays, but it was a play, and the local priest and the minister got us together, and we acted together on stage. So I used to blow our Uncle Hughie's hair into a teddy boy look for this particular part on the stage.
Well.
It was called a friction at that time.
That sounds like a euphemism.
Well, it was a friction, but there was more steam come off the head, and you didn't need any smoke at that time. It just blew up and blew up. It was a great experience.
That's fantastic. So you've got creative connections with Kelly's family, school connections. But in terms of your campaign, Kelly first got involved at a political level with you in your 2015 campaign. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say it was slightly before that. She became an accidental activist leading up to the referendum, and I got to know her through that. She was always keen, always very clear about what she wanted to achieve, easy to talk to, good conversations, and a very bright mind. So it was great to make that connection once again with the local families, and we had shared the same interests, I would say. And she's been involved ever since then, and she's been a great asset, not only to our movement, but to the whole community.
Yeah, indeed. Denny sounds like a very strong community. You're involved with the YMCA, is that right?
I am, yeah. So I've been part of Denny Pace YMCA for about 10 years now, and we've really seen a big change in the last 3-4 years. Especially, we have been lucky enough to secure funding to give the place a whole new regeneration and really a place for the heart of the community to go. We're looking at local groups to come in, we're looking at families to come in to support. We have the food pantry, we're in partnership with the community flat, so a real community hub place. Yeah.
Fantastic, great. And when you were building up a community spirit for John's campaign and then subsequently Paul Garner's council campaign, that was the seat that John used to represent in the council before you became an MP. What were your abiding memories of that teamwork?
I think it was just the whole buzz around it. It was energised, it was fun. Met some of the best people that are now friends for life. And I don't know how I coped my life without them now. And it was just, getting out in the community, speaking to people you would never normally speak with or associate with, people in your own town that you didn't know lived in there, and making lifelong friends, really. People who've moved now on from Denny who are still really good friends and come back. So it was just, the whole thing was just brilliant. I loved every single minute of it.
And you can't wait to get to the next referendum campaign.
Can't wait. Really excited about that. I think we've missed it over the last couple of years, especially with COVID, and things are slowly getting back. But if people are maybe scared to kind of come out or go to things or go to events, big events now, but we're definitely missing that community spirit back in Denny and the buzz that the movement brought.
Fantastic. How about for young people? You tell me about your own family and what they do in the community and their friends. And
I have 2 children. My son is 15 and my daughter is 13. My son has a wide range of additional support needs. He has autism, Tourette's, GAD, anxiety disorder, hyperacusis. So we access a lot of support services within Forth Valley as well, and that's something I'm looking to progress further. In the next few months, I'm looking to start a support group for children with ASN needs and with Tourette's as well. My sister-in-law is actually piloting one through in Alloa at the moment, and she's supporting that. So we're going to kind of touch base with them and see things that work, and hopefully bring that to Denny, because I think it'll be something that'll be great for the community.
It's great, and that's something you'd support too as an MP, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And I think that networking that Kelly's just described is so important. And if you're talking with people, other people are becoming aware. These things never used to be spoken about when I was younger, even at Kelly's age. It was kind of taboo. But I think nowadays people are more prepared to have difficult conversations. It's more in the consciousness of everybody's mind nowadays, these things, and you shouldn't shy away from them. And again, Kelly's a great example of just how to network and speak with people, and hopefully this continues over the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. And in terms of the YMCA, what would be your focal point there in terms of community activities and outreach?
So with my partner Louise Hay, who has been an absolute asset to the YMCA since she came in at 6 years, and she's been the front runner of everything that's happened really over the last 3 or 4 years, really pushing forward times when family circumstances made it difficult for myself to do a lot of the groundwork. Louise has been there doing that and pushing it, and her passion and enthusiasm has made it what it is just now. We're hoping to have a community pantry situated within the YMCA. We're going to have a cafe in there as well, which will be run by the community for the community. So we're looking to get youngsters in there to do that, or we're looking to get kind of more older people, retired people in there, or people from our Roots programme, and to do some volunteering. That's in partnership with the Health and Social Care Partnership, who we've received generous funding from. We're looking to have a strong partnership with the community flat to use the YMCA as a base for our bigger projects, and the community flat for our smaller projects as well, and more intimate projects. So we're looking to get the children and the young people in and speak to them about what they want. I think too often what we've done in the past is we've decided what we think they want, and that's never worked. So we need to get them at ground level and ask them what they want. When we did that before, just before COVID, digital technologies came through a lot. So we are actually in the process of setting up a digital makerspace in Denny YMCA, which will involve VR, virtual reality technology. And it means that it can be accessed from wherever they are. With the demographic in Denny, where some of the young people are situated, it's one of the poorest areas in Denny, we're looking at providing free Wi-Fi for them so that they can access it as well. And it's going to be a real community vibe for them as well. People who would normally miss out on that kind of thing are going to have access to it, which I think is great.
So it's a great way of empowering the most vulnerable.
Sure.
Least heard, as Johnny was saying, people that didn't have a voice before, and now we're encouraging people to have conversations about all manner of issues. In terms of your outreach to vulnerable people in general, I know you've got a particular passion for vulnerable women, and your day job, as it were, is with Women's Aid in Alloa, is that right? Clackmannanshire Council.
Yep, so I work for Clackmannanshire Women's Aid. My role is a children and young persons refuge and prevention worker. So what that means is I support the children that come into refuge who have fled domestic abuse. A massive part of my role is prevention work. So what I currently do is I go into schools, Lawrence Hill, and I go to Alloa and Alva and deliver PSE lessons. we're always saying prevention is key, and I think it's really good to get the conversation going with the young people and deliver a block of 3 lessons. We can touch on subjects like consent, healthy relationships, where to get help, where to get support. We're also doing that in the primary schools at the moment. So we're going in and we're talking about what makes a good friend, what's not a good friend, respect, equality, those kind of things, which I think is a great thing to be doing at that age, promoting their health and well-being and giving them that knowledge at an early age.
Yeah, very good indeed. And in terms of the work, obviously, club managers represented by your colleague John Nicholson. What do you think the best way of using an MP as a resource is in terms of partnering with and supporting the work that you do with Women's Aid and indeed with the YMCA, the community outreach in Denny? How can we best use our elected representatives to?
I think the Client Manager Council, we have a really strong relationship with the council, and ultimately they're one of our main funders, and we also have good support from our local councillors. In the past, they have supported us in Parliament with their anniversaries, with things we've been organising, with special events. It's been really, really positive. In Falkirk Council, currently there isn't a Women's Aid. It's run by CAA, which is a equivalent domestic abuse charity. So, and I'm sure they'd be best to comment on the support that they receive from the council.
Indeed, yes. Regarding the Women's Aid generally, there's an organisation called Shakti who deal particularly with women from ethnic minority backgrounds. Do you have much interaction with them in terms of?
So yeah, Shakti are a great organisation, and they have the specialist support that women from the Black and Asian ethnic minorities need. They have translators, they have specialists, law specialists that have got experience and no recourse to public funds, these kind of things. So specialist knowledge that perhaps we just don't have, and it's a brilliant resource. So it's a really diverse role, and the people that come forward, unfortunately, are from all races and everyone, regardless of your gender, your creed, your religion, can experience domestic abuse.
Absolutely.
And we have the refuges open there to everyone. And if the women decide to use Shakti services, they can go to a specialist Shakti refuge, but they're more than welcome to come to us too.
That's great. To have that partnership and that strength and that support. It's really, really, really important. So as a community champion, how do you see us best placed to going forward towards the campaign for independence?
I think this new hub that we have here at Calendar Studios is really exciting. I felt really excited coming here this morning and to speak to you, and I think the main message is we need to get back together and fighting for the one cause that we're all looking forward to, which is an independent and free Scotland. And I think uniting everybody, getting that excitement back, getting that buzz, if you like, back is what's going to shift it again.
Yeah, getting the conversation going again. You'd agree with that, John?
No, I absolutely agree with it. I've learnt an awful lot just actually listening to Kelly this morning and getting that community knowledge back again, because I know at Westminster it's too easy to become detached just because of the circumstances of travelling and back and forward and being involved in that. It's actually refreshing to hear this very young lady speaking with authority and knowledge and clear understanding of where she wants to go and how the country should be run. And what she's described as like an old money, if I could use that term, it's an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And she's explained that beautifully to us all, how the work that she does, and she's also found people that are also willing to work with her, develop the community, and that's the early intervention, particularly like the bit about the socially deprived areas. And again, having served my time, if you like, as a councillor in Denny, I know, like you do, how invaluable it is to have places to go that don't cost anything, they're paid for somebody else, so there's not a barrier. And that's absolutely crucially important. And you've described it absolutely beautifully this morning, Kelly. So thank you very much for coming along today.
Thank you.
Indeed, thank you, Kelly. We've learned a lot, and it's been energising to learn about what you do and ways in which we can support it. How do you feel that this media facility can support you, or what interested you most about your visit here today?
I think it's a wonderful setup to get a target audience, to reach people online, to reach people via media is really, really important. And for all I felt a bit nervous coming in here now, I'm much more settled and feel a lot more comfortable. And I think it's a wonderful resource for people in the community to be coming and using.
Thank you very much indeed, Kelly.
Thank you.
Johnny, thank you for coming in today.
Oh, thank you, Kenny.
And thank you for listening.
Well, that was Kelly McCann, community activist from Derry, talking to her MP and old family friend John McNally about her work in the community with the YMCA and the Women's Shelter in Clackmannanshire and other organisations, and also about her continued hopes and aspirations for the Yes movement, which we all belong and we're looking forward to taking forward in the coming weeks and months with great vigour. And now on to another community friend, one of our local musicians, Kirsty Heggie, who's another friend of the show and a friend of the Friends of Yes Hub here in Falkirk. Kirsty Heggie is a renowned local musician, a singer-songwriter, writes in an indie genre and is becoming a big name in central Scotland. So we're now going to have some music for her while our parliamentarians return from their vote in the House of Commons.
Well, most of the people, most of the time, will tell you they feel rotten. They feel as though they've been left behind, or there's something they've forgotten. Smiling on time with a yes, I'm fine, and their ears half full of cotton. Drinking from the top of the cup, with the good stuff's at the bottom. We can't see eye to eye, standing in lines. Many of us are not made to be meant for these times. But lately I've been thinking it's the world, not me. Maybe we were made to live a little dangerously. I've always been one to gravitate towards the ledge, but you've never seen the view, have you? If you never come close to the edge, the edge. Well, there was a time that I was sure my own ship may be sinking, but I held on tight to the sides of the bow despite what others were thinking. As a new world appeared through out of the mist, the old one soon was shrinking. I couldn't have seen it any clearer if I'd stopped myself from blinking. I couldn't keep telling myself I was fine when the ones who make all the rules are hiding the crime. Lately I've been thinking it's the world, not me. Maybe we were made to live a little dangerously. I've always been one to gravitate towards the ledge, but you've never seen the view, have you? If you never come close to the edge, the edge. Have you ever come close to the brink of your mind and wondered why people can be so unkind, when all you really needed was a little room to grow, and a world that tells us our lives are just for show, for show. Lately I've been thinking it's the world, not me. Maybe we were made to live a little dangerously. I've always been one to gravitate towards the ledge, but you've never seen the view, have you? if you never come close to the edge. The edge.
And now we're going to go across to the Commons, the chamber where Martin and Ben and Johnny are currently voting with their colleagues.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear us.
How's it going?
Well, sadly, we've lost the vote. We voted on the First Amendment that would have actually limited an aspect of the anti-strikes legislation to England alone. Because, as you know, they've tried to extend the anti-strike legislation to encompass more than just England. So that first vote was to try and prevent them from doing so. Unfortunately, we've lost, but yeah, we're still here. The three of us are in good spirits, and we don't take loss on our chin. We kind of fight on. But I just want to come back on some of the questions we had just before we had to start voting about worst effects of Brexit on Wales. And I mentioned the loss of structural funds, which is a big hit for Wales because we received so much from European structural funds, and we already know that levelling up and the shared prosperity funds that the UK government tried to come in as a replacement are nowhere near, don't go anywhere near enough to ensure that we don't lose out financially. The other thing as well I should have to say about Brexit is the way that our largest sort of port in Holyhead has now been completely undermined by the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is a big concern of us, as well as then Fishguard, which is another port down the coast of Cardigan Bay. So they've hit us very heavily there, unnecessarily so. The other question that was given was about the concern of second homes and incomers affecting the voting pattern, and it's a really important one because my constituency has a very high number of second homes. It's after Gwynedd, which is sort of northwest Wales, it's probably the second highest, I believe, and there are some communities where actually second homes constitute maybe a quarter to a third of the domestic housing stock. So it's a big issue in terms of property and tenancy of our housing stock. So far, we haven't seen that come across to the voting habits, and I think it's unlikely that the second homers will have a big impact. Now, of course, another thing that we have seen in Ceredigion, my seat, for the past 20, 30 years, we have had a lot of people move in to the area. I'm pleased to say, touch wood, there's wood panels here in House of Commons, it hasn't had an impact on our vote. In fact, actually, we've found that it's been quite a good recruitment source of new members for us as a party, and some of our most kind of active organisers and campaigners are actually those who moved to the area and moved to Wales. Not entirely sure why and how that has come to pass, but it's certainly the case that actually when we knock on doors, those who've recently moved tend to be those who are keenest to see more powers for Wales and actually are open to independence. I think it's because they see perhaps the difference in the political sort of Welsh politics is very different from UK politics, and like Cymru politics, as with the SNP, is far more local, personal politics. They see us. I've lost count a number of times. I've had people who've moved from the home counties of England say, "My goodness, Ben, we've seen you 2 or 3 times. We lived in Buckinghamshire for 30 years, never saw an RMP, and yet we see you on a regular basis," and they like that sort of politics. So, like that sort of politics, and so it hasn't yet been negative impact, but we'll have to see now how things kind of develop. But I think we're about to go again, to another vote. I don't know, Martin, if you want to say a few words.
Yeah, we're about to vote again. I've left my order paper in the office, so I'm not quite sure what the next vote coming up actually is, but we're voting against the government. We have a short video that the guys can play that explains the position we took on the minimum strikes bill when it last came to Commons. Nothing has changed in our opinion. It is still an abhorrent, anti-democratic, anti-worker piece of legislation that needs blocked, so we've got to go and do our best to try and block it. But the guys can stick up the strikes video, and we'll hand back over to the team in Falkirk.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for put that one up. I have serious concerns about the UK government's introduction of the anti-democratic and anti-worker strikes minimum service levels bill. The right to strike is fundamental and has contributed to the establishment of weekends, public holidays, safety conditions and sick pay. When pay disputes have arisen in Scotland, the SNP, Scottish Government, has never questioned the right of workers to strike or sought to prevent them from doing so. The SNP is committed to workers' rights to strike and opposes the UK Government's anti-strikes bill. SNP MPs have led the opposition to the bill in Westminster, attempting to stop it at every turn. It is now in the hands of the unelected Lords. Independence is the only way to safeguard Scottish workers from future anti-worker legislation. As an independent country with a written constitution, Scotland will enshrine workers' rights and ensure that no future government can abolish or undermine them without due process. The independence campaign marches on. To win, we need to persuade more of our fellow Scots. If you want to assist locally, message me. There is much to be done. If you like these weekly updates, please like, subscribe and share the video. This week in Parliament, I urge ministers to emulate Scotland's support for green industry investment. What is the Minister and the Secretary of State doing to persuade his government to follow Scotland's example and provide support for investment for companies driving green tech? Yeah. At PMQs, my colleague Mary Black exposed the dire consequences of Brexit. Shrinking economy, labour shortages, higher food prices and lower living standards.
Mr Speaker, the only thing more deluded than that defence of Brexit is the Labour Party's support of it. Now, just today, the world's fourth largest car manufacturer said that Brexit was, and again I quote, a threat to our export business and the sustainability of our UK manufacturing options. Even Nigel Farage can admit that Brexit has failed.
There is no good Brexit, and Scotland's only route back into Europe is with independence. During the Opposition Day debates, Labour chose not to participate.
This is a motion about the cost of living crisis before the UK Parliament. And I think the empty benches, with one honourable exception, whom I'm looking forward to listening to, the empty benches will be noted in Wales and will be noted in England. They have no interest, they have only contempt.
This week's votes focused on the cost of living crisis and repeal of the Public Order Act. Labour's abstention paved the way for a comfortable Tory victory. This starkly illustrates how Westminster's party's priorities differ from Scotland, emphasising the need for independence to safeguard our rights and economic well-being. This week on ayematters, we had Fiona Loud and Judith Connell from Kidney Care UK as our guests for an insightful discussion.
Unfortunately, living with chronic kidney disease is life-changing and can make every day a challenge for people with kidney disease and turn someone's world upside down. It is, you said, a life-threatening condition that never goes away, and kidney disease affects, sometimes governs every aspect of a person's life, be it impacting on their physical health, mental health, economic health and well-being, and their relationship with others.
Do join John and myself for our next live stream on Monday the 22nd of May with Plaid Cymru MP Ben Lake. As always, if you would like an advice surgery appointment or a visit to your local group or business, call me on 01506 654415 or email martin.day.mp@parliament.uk. And until next time, stay safe out there.
Well, hello folks, that's us voted our third vote against the government tonight. And we've got one more vote that we're expecting. I think it will do. It highlights why we so badly need to see powers over workers' rights devolve to parliaments, because we'll make a much better, fairer job of dealing with workers' rights. It's just abhorrent what the Tories have done tonight and what they're pushing through the Lords, and I'm no fan of the Lords, but they made some very sensible amendments that could have mitigated some of the worst excesses of the legislation, and they're just rejecting that out of hand, which doesn't surprise what we know. Just checking out, see if there's any more questions or comments. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely enough to drive us all crazy. I think that's a pretty fair comment. Yeah, whoever said you don't have to be mad to work here was never in Parliament, because by gosh, you certainly do. At least if you're not mad to start with, you will by the time you finish. I think it is a bit crazy. Yeah, the Labour were conspicuous by their absence during the cost of living vote, and I featured a bit of Bill Williams, one of Ben's colleagues, highlighting that. It was just a pity the camera didn't pan across the empty benches on the clip I used, but they did at the beginning. Just seeing more comments. We are pushing as hard as we can. Wolf Pet's asking why none of the well, actually a number have. I know I have, and I know that some of my colleagues, Philip Whitford did. I believe quite a few did, I think, actually. So there's certainly been a number of us. I would maybe have worded it slightly differently, but I think the general principle was there. What are we having for our tea? Well, that's a good question. This place would definitely drive you to drink, but that's not what we're admitting to having for tea. I actually, believe it or not, ate healthy. I am the party's health spokesperson tonight. I had a mushroom shepherd's pie, a vegetarian option today. It was very nice. It was actually very tasty, packed with vegetables. I got all my 5 pieces of fruit and veg on the one plate today. I know that's slightly tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, it was a healthy option I had tonight, which makes a change from the greasy fry-up at the end of the night. We are going to get out of here. How long does it take to wind down after? Well, sometimes they go on for very long hours. I think tonight we are going to get a reasonably early finish, because most have came early. Do you want to add anything, Ben?
Yeah, sure.
Pass over.
Yeah, well, as Martin said, it's actually tonight is quite early, and we could have been here until well past 10:30 actually, if the original sort of timelines had stuck. But we'll probably be finished with voting now in about 10 minutes or so, which is a lot earlier than usual on a Monday, because on Mondays we start later to allow everybody to come down here in time. So it does go on a lot later. But it can sometimes be a late finish on a Monday, and then it's hard to kind of wind down afterwards. Probably all have our particular delights and hobbies that we kind of try and fit in on a Monday night before we go to bed. But no, mine's very much reading and trying to escape the reality that is Westminster politics for 10 or 15 minutes before putting my head on the pillow and falling asleep. But I'm just trying to see now. Another thing just about having tea. I haven't had my supper yet, so I am going to have beans and toast when I get back to the flat, and some cheese if I'm lucky, but I'm not sure if I got some cheese in, so it might just be beans and toast. But you can't go wrong with beans and toast.
John, do you want to?
No, thank you. Yeah.
Yep. We need to find some way of miking multiple of us when we have to do this live run. But that's a challenge that perhaps a techie viewer can inform us of what the best way of doing that is, because this is inevitably going to happen again. We picked a Monday night 8 till 9 because normally on a Monday votes are nearer 10.
So that would let us get the show done while we were here if we weren't taking part in the debates ourselves that night. So we'd hope that would work most weeks, and it has so far. Tonight's the first night we've had the votes during the show, so we do apologise for that. There's so much more Ben could say, and if we've not put him off with what he's seen of us tonight, we will ask him back to continue the discussion, and we will be in our new super duper, we're calling it a studio, but our better office space, not in our cramped working office in future weeks. So I think everything goes from strength to strength, and we're looking forward to that. And John is with us as well.
So I am.
Who's not mic'd up, but we're just looking to. The carpet is moving. Yeah, well, I think we've been here so long we think the whole place is moving. We saw the press coverage with 2 million a week spending on
that was
work,
significant,
to keep this building going, and that's not the major renovation work. We're just about to get the next vote in a moment or two, all of which tells us why the place is falling apart. We've got some good stories about that we need to maybe share in future weeks. You can get Mike Jack splitters. Yeah, that might be an option for
Mike Jack. Did he not play for?
Johnny's not mic'd up, but he was just asking if Mike Jack played for Glamorgan.
Sounds pretty, right to me.
It could be right. Well, that's the next vote. So we will pass back over to the S Hub, and we will hopefully be able to tune in and say goodbye. So I'll just put Kenny back on stream and switch our camera and mic on.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Ben and Johnny. Yes, it's been a day of great activity here on ayematters this evening. We are in the middle of a vote in the House of Commons. That's the first time since the show started we've actually had to go across to the Commons to allow our presenters the opportunity to go and vote. And it's been really interesting to see and to hear the reaction from it afterwards. So we're now going to go to another piece of footage, to Parliament TV, to have a look at what's going on in the chamber.
Order. The question is that this House disagrees with the Lords in their Amendment 5. Is everyone say aye? Aye. Contrary, no? No. Tell us for the ayes, Scott Mann and Steve Double. Tell us for the noes, Navena Mishra and Mary Glendon.
Well, as you can see, it's been a busy night at Parliament with the vote, and that just shows the very much live nature of this show, I Matters. It was really good to have our Plaid Cymru comrade, Ben Lake, with us tonight, speaking to Johnny and Martyn before the vote took place. Plaid Cymru, of course, are our sister party in Parliament of Westminster. We sit together as a group and have had a long association wanting the same objectives and even campaigning but beside one another. Even when I was a student, we used to go down to help Plaid Cymru out with by-elections, and one famous one I remember, it was the Plaid Cymru fighting the European election to unseat Glenys Kinnock. That was the former Labour leader Neil Kinnock's wife, and I met Neil on that trip, and he looked at our Scottish flag beside the Welsh flag and sort of waved nervously, which I remember very warmly. So, and we have Ben and Martyn returning. Close up.
Hello there. Yeah, we've finished voting for the night, so it's quite an early finish for us here on a Monday. 9 o'clock is early, but just catching up with some of the comments. And EDM 1040 definitely SNP members down there. I've just had a look on the website, and there's about 5-6 SNP members on it. One of the things that's changed since the pandemic, we used to have every morning a blue book where you could physically sign your name onto EDMs. That's stopped since the pandemic. So it does mean that sometimes
EDMs can pass you by because you have to physically go onto the website. But no, there are definitely SNP members supporting that, and some SDLP and Plaid Cymru. So it's all good. And yeah, I have to say, I'm looking forward to joining you again for another episode, if Martyn will have me.
Yeah, definitely. They won't hear me on mic, but you can. Yeah.
Martyn says yes.
Yep.
But no, thanks very much all, and hwyl fawr, no star, as we say in Wales, and I'll just pass you over to Martyn for the final word.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone who bared with us through tonight's difficulties. But we knew these kind of things would happen on some of the shows, and hopefully the pre-recorded material wasn't too much of a disappointment as opposed to the live reaction. I think hopefully we informed, and I have to say real thanks to our guys in the Yes Hub, and especially for the help with the actual recorded work that was done, because I think it shows that what the Yes movement can do working together, and we need a lot more of that from different community groups talking about their issues and getting it out there. We have to become the media. Which is really important. If we want to set the agenda and get the kind of society we want, we've got to make sure it's our messages that people are hearing and reacting to, not just what's coming from the Brit media and the right-wing bias that we see. Yeah. So thank you very much. We've gone over the hour, so I'm just going to close the show. So it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Ben, and John has already legged it from the building, I think, after the vote there. So you'll see us all in 2 weeks' time, where we have the Whitsun recess, which is some kind of agricultural break that goes back to medieval times. I'll need to look up what it is and tell you properly next time. With Pet saying it's not showing SNP signature. It is. The link shows that the ones highlighted in yellow, and they've got SNP against them. But if you double check that, you'll find myself and several others are definitely have signed it. But we'll see you on the Monday, the 6th of June. And we will do a wee promo video before that, hopefully to tell you who our guest is. We are waiting for confirmation, and we've got some very interesting people lined up for the month of June, including hopefully Ben again. Yep. And we'll see you all then. So thank you very much, and apologies for the chaos tonight, but you see a bit of what we actually go through on a regular evening. Goodbye.